Here.
Here.
Thank you very much. Now, if everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll move directly to item number 1. Okay. Presentation and discussion regarding El Mirage Road, DCR, Northern to Bell Road, Design Concept Report Status by Mr. Chad Andrews of Michael Baker.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. We are here to talk about the design concept report for the El Mirage project between Northern and Bell, which is a MAG regional project. As you know, there has been a multi-jurisdictional team that's been working on this project for the past almost a year, or a little more than a year now. The project partners for this joint cooperative effort include the Maricopa County Department of Transportation, the City of El Mirage, and the City of Surprise. And the project is being led by a consultant, Michael Baker Jr. and Incorporator. The project was guided by a project management team, which included representatives of all the partner agencies that I just talked about. We do have a number of key players from different agencies represented here today to answer or try answer any questions you may have at the end of the presentation today. I'd like to invite Chad Andrews from Michael Baker to come up and talk to us more in detail about the project itself. Once Mr. Andrews is done, we will open it up for questions and discussions. And while Chad is coming up, I'd like to convey regrets from Dr. Mackey. Unfortunately, he had to be in Michigan today because his mom passed away. With that, Chad.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abraham. We're here tonight to talk about the design concept report for El Mirage Road from Northern Parkway up to Bell Road. It's a high-level concept report that'll include, when it's finished, it'll include 40% design-level plans to go along with it. The project area is along El Mirage Road. It goes from Northern Avenue up to Bell Road. Oops. All right. The objectives of tonight's workshop are to review the background and description of the project, talk about the roadway alternatives, provide a status update and the current direction of the DCR, and then also to receive feedback from all of you. The project partners, as Dr. Abraham had mentioned, are the Maricopa Association of Governments, the City of El Mirage, City of Surprise, Maricopa County DOT, and the Arizona DOT. The need and the purpose for the project to provide a continuous El Mirage Road corridor, address the land use transformations as we move from a rural to a higher density urban areas, also to implement the MAG Regional Transportation Plan. And I guess it's important to note that as El Mirage Road goes through all three jurisdictions, the DCR process has been really a cooperative effort, and it's dating all the way back to the early planning stages, with the planning for the MAG RTP. And right now, MCDOT is the contract manager, but it's really being managed by all three agencies, not just by the county. And their role basically is as a regional transportation planning agency, similar to that of MAG's, and then while also supporting the city's future plans. Also, another purpose and need is to provide a better regional connectivity and also to improve the access to Grand Avenue. And then lastly, of course, to improve the traffic safety, capacity, and drainage characteristics of El Mirage Road. Some of the objectives for the DCR: develop and evaluate roadway design alternatives, apply context-sensitive solutions, recommend the roadway type and alignment, define right-of-way requirements for the near-term needs as well as for the long-term needs, develop a plan for phasing and implementation of the future project, and make sure we consider the future so that what we build today doesn't have an adverse effect on what we will build in the future, and then also to provide project information through public outreach and education, such as we've had the public, the open houses, and then also stakeholder meetings. Talk a minute about context-sensitive solutions, or CSS. It's something that we've used to define the roadway, excuse me, to define the roadway type and how it's going to fit with the long-range land use plans. And just to read the quote here from AASHTO, it's the melding of design process for highway and bridge projects with consideration of the community values and environmental resources of the project area. We've used the CSS process as an aid to help develop and refine the alternatives for the design concept report, and used the 4 basic principles of placemaking, community visioning, defining the context, and also providing a flexible design. We met separately. Michael Baker's met separately with the City of Surprise, El Mirage, and McDOT in separate meetings to discuss basically the most important 2 of the 4 principles we decided was the community visioning, and then also the placemaking that we're going to develop as we improved El Mirage Road. We received feedback from all the agencies and compiled it, and then we met together as a team to talk about, to achieve a consensus to decide on the roadway design elements. And basically there's 2 concepts in the DCR. One is a preferred project, and it defines the near-term traffic safety and the roadway capacity demands. The preferred project will be the part of the DCR that's developed to 40% design level plans, and then the master plan is the ultimate vision for El Mirage Road, and talking about the long-term capacity and the regional connectivity needs. That part of the report will remain as a high-level planning concept. The preferred projects in the master plan are shown on this map. The preferred projects are shown in red, and again, they address the near-term needs. And for the most part, the preferred projects are going to improve El Mirage Road to a 4-lane section. The first one is the northern Cactus, then there's the Thunderbird to Grand Avenue, and then the intersection of Grand Avenue, Thunderbird Road, and Thompson Ranch Road, including the overlay of Thompson Ranch Road up to Greenway, and then finally from Greenway up to Bell Road. The master plan is shown on the map with the blue outline, and generally the master plan for the entire corridor is that it will be a 6-lane section from Northern to Bell Road. During the DCR process, we've evaluated 8 master plan alternatives, and it looks a bit like a bowl of spaghetti there. We looked at a lot of different options. This area is really challenging, and particularly because of the BNSF railroad yard and the tracks that run on the north side of Grand Avenue. All of these alternatives shown here in red depend heavily on the relocation of that railroad yard. Once the yard moves, the City of El Mirage plans to develop that as an urban core. And some of the alternative analysis that we've done on that is to study the impacts to the BNSF, regional connectivity and at-grade crossings, and possibilities with Grand. And we narrowed it down to 3 alternatives, and they're the A2 alternative, and I'll try to point here with the mouse if it'll allow me, the A2 alternative, the B2 alternative, which runs in here, and the C1 alternative that came on this side of El Mirage Road. Once we did that analysis, we narrowed it down to 3, those 3, and then we continued on with doing more analysis, applying cost, implementation of the phasing, the Grand Avenue access, and the multimodal potential for the area, and possibly including some commuter rail. The master plan was narrowed down to just these 2 alternatives. The first alternative is the at-grade alternative. It's the master plan alternative, again, the long-term solution, or one of the possible solutions. It's an at-grade crossing with Grand Avenue and also with the BNSF tracks. The second alternative for the master plan is a grade separation with El Mirage Road either going under or going over Grand Avenue and the railroad tracks. In addition to the crossing, there will be an arterial connection to Grand Avenue that will be an at-grade intersection. Currently, the master plan alternative is the B2 underpass for that area. The preferred plan for this area, or the near-term solution, is having the roadway come up along El Mirage Road and turn and tee into Grand Avenue. The advantage of that is that the footprint is very similar to what we'd be doing in either of the two master plan alternatives, so that we're not making impacts on the preferred that would be swaying the decision one way or the other on the master plan. This alternative does not cross the railroad, so it would just be a T intersection with Grand Avenue. And then this brings us to the slide that you all want to hear about in surprise. So the focus of the preferred alternative from Greenway to Bell is in the area of the intersection of Bell Road. And the main issues that we have in this area are the Bell Road intersection capacity, right-of-way issues, drainage issues, and utility issues. It was determined that the intersection is a near-term need due to the fact that the county has another project that's going to be going to construction on the north side of Bell Road. And by having our preferred alternative on the south side of Bell Road be a near-term project, we can improve, or that we can at least improve the traffic flow through the intersection better than what it is today. And by doing roadway improvements to El Mirage, we're going to widen it to 3 through lanes, provide dual left turn lanes and dedicated right turn lanes in each direction. Bell Road will also be improved to a 3-lane section with dual lefts and free and dedicated right turn lanes in each direction. So it'll be a big improvement from what's out there today. The right-of-way impacts to deal with in this area include businesses. There's some condominiums, and then there's residential homes that will be impacted. There's drainage issues on this piece. There's a large concrete line channel that runs along the north side of Bell Road from east to west, and then there's also a Lizard Acres wash runs diagonally through the Paradise Lane intersection. There's also several utilities in the corridor. Primarily, there's an APS overhead power line. It's a 230 kilovolt power line that's on the south side of Bell Road. And then there's also Southwest Gases out there, and then also many city utilities are out there also. The master plan in this area addresses the long-term versus the near-term, as El Mirage Road being improved to a 6-lane road. However, that 6-lane road won't be needed until Greenway Road is improved and the intersection with Grand Avenue is also improved. The Greenway Road improvements and the connection to Grand Avenue is going to be under a separate DCR. It's not analyzed with this report. We went to the public with our preferred alternative both in February and in March. The preferred alternative, again, was to match the alignment with the improvements to the north and then also widen Bell Road to the south. We received several comments from the public. Why are we widening everything to the east and impacting the right-of-way, and why aren't we going to the west? And our initial direction was to let's line everything up with the project on the north, but as much feedback as we got from the public, we decided to go back to the drawing board and look at at least one other alternative with shifting the roadway to the west. So what you see on your screen here is the original preferred alternatives on the left. Right-of-way impacts are shown in blue. There's businesses, condominiums, and residential homes on the east side that were impacted. And then we looked at shifting the roadway to the west, and that's shown on the right side of the screen. Some of those same impacts to right-of-way are affected on this alternative also. There's businesses and the condominiums. And the additional impacts to this area were on the north side. There's a well site on the northwest corner, and then we'd also be impacting some residential houses in Sun City West. The big difference on this is the businesses on the west side of the road that were impacted by shifting to the west and then there were additional residential homes on the west side. The additional right-of-way cost for the public input alternative, just for the right-of-way cost, was an additional $15 million more to shift everything to the west. So the conclusions that we came to will continue with the preferred alternative and minimize the cost and the right-of-way impacts with the original preferred alternative instead of going with the one that we looked at based on the public input. After we decided that the widening would stay on the east side of the road, we looked at to try to find a logical tie-in point for the improvements basically between Greenway and Bell, with the focus between Paradise Lane and Bell. The Paradise Lane alternative tied in just south of Paradise Lane and included a large concrete box culvert to convey the flows of Lizard Acres Wash through that intersection, and then the roadway improvements up to Bell Road. The cost of the Paradise Lane was $33 million. The Pisern Drive alternative tied in the roadway just south of Pisern Drive. It eliminated the need for that large concrete box culvert and reduced the roadway improvements roughly in half. This alternative does acquire right-of-way down to Paradise Lane, and the major impact on that is on the east side of the road through the Sunflower Resort. And the reason for that is that it's less disruptive to go to the Sunflower Resort just one time to purchase right-of-way, rather than buy a little bit now and 10 or 15 years later we go back again. It's just better to do it all right now. The cost for that one was $21 million, and right now the team is moving forward with the Pisern Drive alternative. And then that leads us to the funding for the project. The preferred projects, the near-term needs projects, are $76 million. Thunderbird, Thompson Ranch Road, Grand Avenue intersection has been identified as an ADOT project for $16 million, and then the long-term master plan improvements are an additional $100 million for a total project cost of $192 million. Right now, MAG, Regional Transportation Plan funding, has allocated $36 million. So there's a preferred project funding deficit right now of $40 million. And I guess it's important to point out right now that to date there are no funding agreements that have been made. These are just cost estimates for the construction of the project. The remaining tasks that we have for the design concept report, there's the formal City Council presentation in October. The final public meeting will be in November, and the DCR will be complete in December of this year. And with that, we'll just open it up to the council for questions.
Thank you very much. Council, questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Mr. Hall.
Yes, let's see, is my mic on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Here.
I had a question regarding, this is kind of a global question. Is the objective of El Mirage Road what is it going to relieve? Who's going to benefit in terms of relief from a north-south road? Yeah, what's the objective of widening a road? Some roads got to benefit.
We have Mike Sabatini, who can probably take this question.
Yes, I'm Mike Sabatini. I'm the Engineering and Planning Division Manager from Maricopa County Department of Transportation. Thank you for having me here this evening. The question is, what does El Mirage Road relieve? I think if we look at the transportation network in whole, both today and in the future, what we'll find is that as development continues, as growth continues to occur, the network needs to fill out more completely than it is today, both in terms of east-west capacity and north-south capacity. El Mirage Road is one of the few north-south corridors that presents the opportunity to expand to provide some of that global relief.
So the way I look at it, it's Sun City West traffic, really, that's coming out on El Mirage Road. It's not surprise traffic, correct?
I don't know that I'd agree with that assessment, sir.
We're surprised. North of Bell. There's no surprise residents north of Bell out there.
I think what you'll find is that north and west of the intersection of Bell and El Mirage, there'll be substantial growth, some of which will be in Surprise, some of which will be in Peoria, some of which will be in unincorporated Maricopa County.
Okay. So, okay. Another question is the T. You're going to do the T for the south side of Grand. Okay. I'm unclear of what your option is on the north side of Grand. Is it Thompson Ranch Road, where it marries into that, or what?
I think I'll now turn it back over to Chad, if that's okay.
Okay.
It might be better if I can get my way back over to that slide that showed the improvements at Grand Avenue. The preferred alternative, or the near-term solution, is to continue with, let me get back over here to the, here it is. The preferred alternative that's shown in red here will take traffic out and around Thompson Ranch Road and bring it down into the improved intersection of Thompson Ranch, Thunderbird, Grand. That intersection will be a 6-lane facility in all directions, at least on the portion that we're working on. ADOT has another project that they're going to be widening Grand Avenue, but we'll have 3 through lanes and dual lefts and dedicated right turn lanes to relieve the traffic in the preferred alternative. The long-range plans or the master plan will bring traffic down and across, and it'll have that arterial connection that we had shown. Do you want me to go to that slide?
Yeah, if you could, please.
And it was one of the alternatives that we had looked at, and this was actually one of the ones that was selected to move forward with as a master plan. Traffic, and like I said, this Greenway Road and the Greenway connection to Grand is going to be it's going to need to be studied. So we have not, in this design concept report, we have not solved that, but we're looking at traffic coming down. Let's see, where's the cursor? All right, coming down through the railroad once it moves, and coming down and then having a connection through this arterial connection to Grand Avenue. And then in addition, it will also have the connection also along Thompson Ranch and coming down.
So
Is that correct?
the preferred is grade separation. That's your preferred.
The master plan, the long-term range is grade separation.
Okay.
The near-term project is going to be an at-grade crossing from the south, coming up with the T.
Yep.
And the near-term solution will also have traffic go along Thompson Ranch Road and have a T, and also have an at-grade connection at Grand.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Alton.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question as to, I know that El Mirage Road from Bell down to about Greenway is within the city limits.
Yes, it is.
It's actually a shared city limits, correct? I mean, doesn't El Mirage then butt up to that same road?
Yeah, up to Paradise Lane is El Mirage.
Okay.
And then north of Paradise Lane, it's Surprise on both sides.
Okay. And so then whenever BNSF vacates their property there, and which it could be years away, then this will go through. In the interim, though, it'll have a T, and there will be going into Grand and putting another light on Grand.
If the warrants are met at that point, there will be another light. You're talking about the southern T that comes up to Grand Avenue?
Right.
Yeah, which would most likely be signalized, yes.
And then the rest of the road that goes all the way down to Northern, isn't that in El Mirage?
Yeah, rest of it is all in El Mirage.
So the funding source, we haven't even talked about it, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Is this just rhetoric that we're discussing right now that's never going to happen, or is it something that will happen in the near future, far future? Ooh, I don't see it happening soon.
As far as we know, any project to go beyond the DCR would need an IGA between the partners, the 3 partners that we have. So if we have to have this one section of El Mirage in Surprise proceed to the DCR, from the DCR level to the design level, then there has to be an IGA with some kind of funding commitments from all the three. And then one other thing that we know is that there is around $39 million over the next 9 years. So there are possibilities of some of these preferred projects being built.
I see.
Again, all those would be decided at the IGA level by the partners. We would have to sit down and hash out what proceeds to the next stage, which is design.
The 39 million
Yes.
that you talked about, where's that going to come from?
Let me invite Ms. Probst maybe to.
Regional transportation plan, and it's over an 8-year period. For your particular section, from year 2013 to 2015 is the bulk of the funding, which is around $15 million will be available. But like John said, once the DCR is complete, the project team will present our recommendations on which project we would like to advance into design. And at that point, we would require another IGA because the current IGA is just for the DCR. But we do have an MOU with both cities.
What's the DCR and an MOU, ma'am?
Well, I'm sorry, a memorandum of understanding and an IGA is an intergovernmental agreement. And so we will still need to go through that process if we want to advance any of these projects. But there is regional funding available. We would have to come up with a 30% match, like all the arterial projects in the RTP.
30% match versus the proportion, it all be in proportion as to who's going to benefit from it the most?
Well, actually, in the 30% matches, if we have enough funding for the entire project, which we've shown we don't even have that. We have a deficit.
Okay. So this subject we'll visit a long time from now.
Exactly. And DCR means Design Concept Report, which is just a conceptual 30%.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Dr. Abraham, I don't know if you or Chad wants to answer this question. Going back to the preferred projects versus master plan slide on the presentation, catches my eye and a lot of interest of folks and surprises. Shorey Avenue, Cactus Road, Thunderbird Road, and there's going to be improvements there. A lot of folks that are trying to get to Grand Avenue, the 101 that are commuting to get to their jobs. That Thunderbird Grand Avenue intersection, getting through that area is a nightmare. I guess it's a timeline question on if this whole project is kind of a ways out there. What are the plans as far as improvements in that area on that intersection?
You're talking probably something very independent about, from this project. What is the interim solutions? And again, since Grand Avenue is a state roadway, it'll really depend a lot on how much we can achieve with them. I'm not sure if we have anybody from the team who can address some more, or maybe you can just talk.
ADOT has asked us to do 30% design to their standards as part of this because part of our master plan does include that intersection. And they had looked at that as part of their Grand Avenue enhancement study and recommended 3 intersections be carried forward into the design concept phase. And we were already doing that as part of this project because it's part of our interim plans. And so we will be supplying them with a 30% level plan set, and then they're going to go and start an EA, I think, within the next year or so, and advance it.
That's environmental
assessment. Environmental assessment, I'm sorry. And that's what their next phase is. They have not selected a consultant to do that yet, but this is an ADOT project. They will use Grand Avenue enhancement funds. That's why on our one funding slide, we removed that from being our deficit.
Okay, so there's no real, for somebody watching this at home and seeing, well, how am I going to get to work quicker? We don't have a timeline on, say, that improvement in that area. Because east-west crossings and trying to get to the 101 quicker, more efficiently, that's something we've all talked about. There's something that we're constantly talking about. So if the environmental assessment hasn't even begun, so that's a long ways out as well.
It is a long way out. And, like we were saying, that we still have to make our recommendations, and that we're just really early in the project development phase, and all of these projects are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Just want to make a couple of comments. Even though it is a long way out, That's why you have planning, and I guess that's what they're trying to do right now, is give us the plan of what the plan is, and if we have concerns about the plan. Granted, it'll come back before us, and cost will probably change about 900 times. But as far as the plan, I guess what they're trying to present to us, I think we're saying, oh, it's a long way off. But as we all know, a long way off gets here sooner than we think. So what they're trying to do is just say, this is the plan, these are the alternatives, and this is what the communities are saying, and they're asking us if we have any concerns with it. So that's just a general comment. But I think I get a feeling from some of the other council members. They're feeling like, okay, well, this is going down to Northern. It's just a portion in our city. What are the other municipalities? What's their contributions? But my thing is, I wish you would have had another of the whole regional plan, so we know Northern, that we all know that our development mainly is to the north in Surprise right now. And this is going to be a reliever, and they're going to need ways to get down from the north, mainly in your district right now. So this is a regional plan, and it has a long plan to it. So I wish it would have done a little bit better idea of showing us where this is going and how it's going to relieve northern traffic for us, even beyond Bell Road, north of Bell Road. And I think that's what we would be just as concerned to see, so we know the importance of this getting down to Northern for our future, not just for now. So I wish we would have had that map, or you could have provided it for us. But there aren't many Northern, we talk about east-west because that's our concern now, but once the north is developed, if you look at a regional plan, this is one of the only north-south. And I wish you could have showed that to us, but that's why this is important. So north-south is going to be important in the future, maybe not immediately, but it is going to be in our future. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Yes, what I understand is north of Bell, El Mirage Road, is funded, right? That's going to happen.
The project is going to
correct?
happen in 2010,
2010, that's going to happen.
next
Okay.
year. So
All right. So that's a done deal. That's funded and the whole thing, so. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we have any other speakers. Thanks
have
for the
a question,
presentation.
please.
And we'll move on to,
Good question.
hit the button if you'd like to.
I hit the speaker mic. It's
Okay.
on?
Mr. Villanueva,
Yes.
go ahead.
This pertains actually to El Mirage. From Thunderbird to Grand Avenue, the concept right now is to take the residents on the east side of El Mirage Road. Is that to expand it to 6 lanes? Or is it both sides?
I'll probably defer to Mr. Andrews.
Yeah, let me go to that slide here to talk about the near term, or the which will be a 4-lane section. And let's see if I can get my cursor on there. The new road 4-lane section will come up and curve and tee in. We need to bring it around and tee it in. The BNSF has a spur track crossing of Grand Avenue right through here, so we need to make sure our intersection is far enough away from there. So to answer your question, the right-of-way requirements are shown in blue. They're on both sides of Bell Road, of El Mirage Road, and not all of them are going to need to be purchased, but you can see on blue, like I said, most of them are going to be potential right-of-way purchases. And then this footprint, if I go back to either of these two alternatives, is very similar, so that what we end up having to purchase on this preferred or near-term project, it will fall in nicely with either of the two, whichever ones get selected.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe that concludes those who wish to speak. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you for your patience, and I'd like to thank all the team members who took time out of their busy schedules to be here and discuss with us the details of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Presentation and discussion regarding Maricopa County Department of Transportation, MCDOT, east-west Agua Fria crossings at Deer Valley and Williams. Beardsley and Peoria will be discussed with focus on Deer Valley and Williams.
Mayor Truitt, members of the council, The record, Randall Overmeyer, Senior Transportation Planner. Dr. Mackey asked me to cover this presentation in his absence due to the death of his mother, as Dr. Abraham had already said. In just a moment, I'm going to turn this over to two gentlemen. The first one, Mr. Mike Sabatini, Maricopa County Department of Transportation, and following Mr. Sabatini, Mr. Jim Mischler with the firm Parsons Brinkerhoff. PB, or Parsons Brinkerhoff, was responsible for the Deer Valley Williams Design Concept Report and also an alternative truck route study in the river bottom, which they'll cover in their presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you again for allowing us to be here this evening. Just want to say a few introductory remarks before I turn it over to Mr. Mischler. We, as you, are very interested in river crossings of the Agua Fria River. We recognize that the east-west capacity is severely limited, and we need to look for all the opportunities that we can to improve that situation. In the 2005-2006 time frame, we did an analysis of river crossings between Interstate 10 and Bell Road. The conclusions from that were that several new crossings should be pursued, and several existing crossings would need additional capacity, additional lanes on bridges. One that is very, as I understand, is very important to the city of Surprise, is important to us as well, would be at Peoria Avenue. It is one of the recommendations out of that river crossing study from 2006. However, at that time, there was a substantial and vocal group that was opposed to that crossing. We didn't find that we had the political support at that time for Maricopa County to pursue further investigations of Peoria Avenue. So I understand the town of El Mirage is now evaluating that crossing. They've hired a consultant to do that. As it turns out, the river crossing itself is actually in Youngtown. Youngtown's limits extend to 111th Avenue, which is where Sun City picks up, is at 111th Avenue. That's as much as I know about El Mirage's efforts at this point in time, and I'll be anxious to see the results of their investigations. The other things that we have done are several years ago, folks from Surprise, it was Bill Parrish and I forgot the other gentleman's name at the moment, but at any rate, they approached us to investigate extending Rose Garden Lane up the hill to connect with El Mirage Road. We began those investigations, and what we found is that for the expense that we would incur, the benefit that we would all receive, we didn't think that that was the best solution. Instead, we changed our focus to Deer Valley and Beardsley. And we did what amounts to a very abbreviated design concept report, in other words, preliminary analysis, engineering analysis of those two crossings. What we found was that at that particular point in time, we didn't have the support of all of the potential partners to further evaluate Beardsley. We did find that there was support to continue investigations in Deer Valley. That's the presentation you'll see in a minute. I know Beardsley is very important to Surprise. It is to Maricopa County as well. Now that we've finished the work on Deer Valley, we're in a position, along with Surprise and other partners, to investigate the possibility of a partnership to continue evaluations of Beardsley. We haven't reached that point yet, but we're getting there closely. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Mischler. Thank you.
I'm Jim Mischler with Parsons Brinkerhoff. And essentially, an overview of this is an overview of things that have been going on with McDOT in actual construction in the most recent years. It includes El Mirage construction from Loop 303 down to Deer Valley Drive that was completed just early this year. And then, as was discussed earlier, from that point south to Bell Road will start potentially this fall and primarily be constructed next year. As Mike mentioned, the Beardsley Road DCR was completed in '06, and we just completed the update to the Deer Valley Road Design Concept Report earlier this month. In conjunction with that, and we've worked on that for about the past 15 months, in conjunction with that, we did a study to look for alternative truck routes to serve the rock product industry in the Agua Fria River area. And the partners on that project were similar to the partners on the Deer Valley Road Design Concept Report of McDOT, City of Peoria, City of Surprise. The truck route study also included the Arizona Rock Products Association. We looked at, for the Deer Valley Road Design Concept Report, we looked at 5 alternatives. Alternative 1 was to connect Pinnacle Peak Road from El Mirage Road to Lake Pleasant Parkway. Another alternative we looked at was to connect Williams Drive to Williams Road, over also to Lake Pleasant Parkway. We also looked at an alternative, actually 2 different alternatives to connect Deer Valley Drive to Deer Valley Road, and then a 4th alternative to extend to connect Rose Garden Lane from El Mirage Road to 99th Avenue and then to Lake Pleasant Parkway. And as in the previous study, Rose Garden Lane did not float to the top as for the alternatives. And for various reasons, neither did Pinnacle Peak Road or the Williams Road alignment. We did look at a hybrid alignment to connect Williams Drive diagonally across the river area to Deer Valley Road and onto Lake Pleasant Parkway. And that alternative and the Deer Valley Drive to Deer Valley Road alternative moved forward after a public involvement meeting that was held about a year ago in August of '08. So based on the input we received from that public meeting, we looked at those 2 alternatives in greater detail. And as we completed our analysis and looked at right-of-way impacts and mining impacts, the alternative 5 to connect Williams Drive and then diagonally across the river to Deer Valley Road became the preferred alternative. We also looked at the costs associated with constructing a river crossing, and the costs were quite significant, in particular when looking at the costs of the bridge and needing to do interim channelization to accommodate a shorter bridge structure. We knew that the Flood Control District was looking to advance a channelization project through a partnership with the Rock Product Association members, much as has been done further south on the Agua Fria River. And so with that in mind, and with the knowledge that that channelization will likely occur in the future, we looked at a phased approach. And the phased approach involves building first a 2-lane roadway across the Agua Fria River to connect existing Williams Drive to existing Deer Valley Road with a low water at-grade crossing, but that crossing would include a fairly substantial box culvert that could pass the peak discharge from a 2-year storm. Phase 2, so Phase 2 would be built as 2 lanes, but would essentially be the outer 2 lanes of what ultimately would be a 5-lane arterial section. So there would be a median section in between. Phase 2 will come along. Our traffic projections indicate 8 to 10 years down the road, when both the traffic volumes have increased to the point where 2 lanes are no longer satisfactory, and also hopefully the budget is available to build the project, and it would complete the 5-lane section. Both, as I mentioned, phases 1 and 2 use the low water crossing with a culvert. Now, we did look at gauging station data and determined that the actual numbers in the river, this would have been overtopped only once in 15 years. Phase 3 is the bridge. As we did this work, we also examined various alternatives for the truck route. The preferred alternative turned out to be an extension of 112th Avenue to take as a collector roadway that would take the trucks north to 107th Avenue at the location of the Pinnacle Peak section line, from which point they could continue north in the city of Peoria to Happy Valley Parkway. The truck route will be grade separated from Deer Valley Road, so there would not be an opportunity for trucks to access Deer Valley Road from the truck route. Estimated costs for budgeting: the 112th Avenue extension is $7.3 million. The Deer Valley Road Phase 1 is $18.2 million. The grade separation, I'm not sure which project that would go into. Would take an IGA for that, would be about $2 million. Phase 2 down the road would be about $11 million, and Phase 3, well out in the future, in 2009 dollars, would be $12.7 million. At this point, I entertain questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We have 5 or so minutes to ask questions, if there are any questions, Council. Seeing no one, I thank you for your presentation, and this meeting is adjourned.